Okay. Yes, very good afternoon to all participants. For today's session, we are taking up chapter 18, and the topic is index numbers. So I think the audio video is coming fine, and the presentation is visible. So can you please confirm? Yes, okay. I'm just, yeah, okay, right. So in today's session, on quantitative aptitude, we are looking at index numbers, chapter 18. So first and foremost, we are going to cover the basic concepts of index numbers. And the first point of discussion will be on price index, followed by understanding of quantity index, and then a value index. After that, we will discuss and understand the important formula. First one, we have three basic formula: last Pérez index, then we have Pastures index and Marshall-Edgeworth index. Apart from that, there is another important index which is called Fisher's Ideal Price Index. We will go through and understand the features of each of these index numbers. And then in the syllabus for the exam, chain index and shifting of price index is also included. So we will cover that as well. And when it comes to the index numbers, there is definitely an important test of adequacy to understand which index number is the ideal index number. So we will look at TRT, which is time reversal test, factor reversal test, FRT, and circular test. Also in the coverage, in today's session, we will include the benefits and limitations of index numbers, several MCQs from chapter 18 I'll be covering, and some important practical questions which are available in the MTP, the mock test paper and the model test papers we will cover. At the end, a few queries from the last day's session on correlation regression set B. I will include that in the discussion. So this is our flow of discussion today. So first and foremost, the learning objectives, as I was mentioning in the session on correlation regression. So these are topics in our curriculum in quantitative aptitude in statistics part, which has a high level of application in the business world. Similarly, apart from correlation regression, index numbers is something which we come across every day. And one of the best example is when we refer to price index, consumer price index, wholesale price index. And it is important for CA students to learn and understand the different type of price index and quantity index which are available, because index number provide relationship in the form of percentage change, in the form of, it's more like a relative analysis of the index of 2 years. And when we talk about stock market, Bombay Stock Exchange, National Stock Exchange, we refer to the index. For example, Sensex, Nifty. So these are essentially index numbers. That means index numbers and the understanding of index numbers has a lot of practical relevance for CA students. And that is why this is part of our curriculum. So the understanding, the important questions in the exam on index numbers, usually the purpose is to check whether students have understood the concept of constructing index numbers and the various applications of index numbers in production prices. Then, of course, most important segment is whether students are aware and whether they can understand the differences between Pastures index, last Pérez index, Fisher's index, and so on. So index number is nothing but a particular tool to represent a set of values over 2 or more different periods or localities. And in economics, the term price index, or when we talk about the consumer index, price index, or wholesale price index, cost of living index. Recently, the government of India has introduced Human Development Index, HDI, in different states all over the country. So therefore, index number has a practical usage in economics, in public finance, and definitely in stock markets, in capital markets sector. So a small example of what index number is, if wheat production has gone up to 110% of the previous year's production and cotton production has gone up to 105%, it is possible to average the two percentages as they have gone up by 107.5. So it's just a simple average. So on the right hand side of the screen, we can get a view of the different types of index numbers. Like for example, we have price index numbers, quantity index numbers, and we shall include value index numbers as well. And then usefulness of index numbers when it comes to the splicing and including the chain index we will discuss. And as I was mentioning in our discussion, in course of the session, we will be covering the test of adequacy, including unit test, time reversal, factor reversal, and circular test. So methods of index numbers can be simple or weighted, and therefore the formal definition of index number is that it is expressed as a ratio of prices in 2 years, or say quantity consumed in 2 years, or it could be more than 2 years as well. And there one particular year is taken as the base year. So the value of the base year period serves as the standard point of comparison. It is the starting point on which the entire comparison is made. Typical example, the National Stock Exchange Index, Nifty, Bombay Stock Exchange, Sensex, the Financial Times Stock Exchange, FTSE, and then I was referring to Wholesale Price Index and Consumer Price Index. So एक चीज मैं कहना चाहूंगा कि इंडेक्स नंबर का बहुत सारे एप्लीकेशंस है, और इंडेक्स नंबर्स दो तरह के होते हैं. एक है सिंपल इंडेक्स नंबर्स और एक है कंपोजिट इंडेक्स नंबर्स. So simple index number is computed for one variable, whereas a composite index number could be for more than one variable. It could be basically like, say, you could think of creating an index number based on different, say for a wholesale price index और या फिर consumer price index की हम लोग जब बात करेंगे यहाँ पे the index number would be calculated on a composite manner where number of items could be included in the index number which will have varying proportion, varying weightage. So that could be seen as an example of composite index numbers, and definitely index numbers which are used in the capital market to show the movement in the index, Sensex, in the underlying index, sensitive index or Sensex as we call it, or Nifty, we will find that they are composite in nature. Now, on the lower part of the slide, we can see that there are mainly three types of index numbers: price index, quantity index, and value index numbers. So we shall cover each of them in details in course of our discussion. So for a quick recap so far, index numbers are a useful way. So point number one is that index numbers are a useful way of expressing economic data over a period of time. So it is like a time series data. And here the idea is that we are covering both prices. It could be salary from year to year. It could be quantity consumed from year to year. And therefore, the idea is to meaningfully compare and contrast between the price level year after year. And when you think of salary formulation for an employee, there is a concept of dearness allowance, DA, we call it DA. इसको कहते हैं dearness allowance. यानी महंगाई के साथ साथ उनको ज्यादा अलाउंस मिलनी चाहिए. लेकिन महंगाई की जब बात करेंगे, when we refer to the word that ultimately every year we see inflation going up and we see cost of living becoming more and more tight. So here time series is the best way to express the movement in the price as well as in the quantity consumed, in the purchasing power, for example. So index number is a figure reflecting price or quantity over 2 or more number of years. The starting year is usually called the base year, and sometimes the base price is denoted with the number 100. Base value always has an index number of 100, and then the index number is expressed as 100 times the ratio to the base value. So यहाँ पे हम लोग को नोट करना है कि इंडेक्स नंबर्स का कोई यूनिट नहीं होता. इंडेक्स नंबर्स आर नॉट एक्सप्रेस्ड इन INR, in rupee, or in dollar, or in euro, or in pound sterling. So they have no unit of measurement. It is just a pure ratio. Price in 2025 divided by price in 2010, for example. So the price of a commodity in 2025 this year divided by the price of the same commodity in 2010, assuming that 2010 is considered as the base year. So that means this index number, which we are calculating, price of commodity X in 2025 divided by price of commodity X in the year 2010. So this is purely a ratio of two prices, and therefore it is easy to understand that this particular, when you talk about this particular ratio, will it have any unit? No, it is a ratio of two prices. So there is going to be absolutely no unit. It's a pure ratio. So इसको हमेशा याद रखिएगा कि एक इंडेक्स नंबर का कोई unit nahi hota. It is not expressed in quantity terms in the sense that it's not expressed in metric tons. It is not expressed in kgs, kilograms. It is not expressed in INR and so on. ये स्लाइड के दाहिने तरफ आप देख सकते हैं कि बहुत सारे प्रैक्टिकल एग्जांपल्स मैंने इंक्लूड किया है यहाँ पे कि कंज्यूमर प्राइस इंडेक्स. सो यू कैन नाउ अप्रिशिएट दैट इंडेक्स नंबर, even though it's the last one of the last chapters of our quantitative aptitude statistics section, but it has tremendous practical application. So not just talking about the sensitive index of the capital market, but if you see index of house prices, real estate market, property market, उसमें house या land का जो भाव है, value है, price है, market price, उस पे क्या increase हो रहा है या decrease हो रहा है, या whether the price is stable. This is best expressed through the housing price index. Similarly, we have GDP index, gross national income index. I was referring a little while back to human development index, and we have index of industrial production, IIP. You will come across this particular term almost every day. At the end of every month, you will find that the government of India is calculating the index of industrial production. Different regulatory bodies, Reserve Bank of India, for example, will publish many of these important index or indices. So index number in one line, if I say, is nothing but a particular reflection of the economic activity of a country measured either as a ratio of price level in 2 years, that is current year price divided by base year price, or it could be in the nature of a ratio which involves current year quantity by base year quantity. So that is the concept. So therefore index number में कोई भी unit नहीं होता. So हम लोग stock market index की बात कर रहे थे, and you can see that the stock market index and the movement index में जो movement हो रहा है is an indication of the average returns which is received by the investors. So when we have Sensex and Nifty and Dow Jones index in US, and we have Nikkei, Hang Seng, Hong Kong Stock Exchange index, Nikkei in Tokyo Exchange in Japan. So with the help of the index, it becomes easy for the investor to compare performance as it can be used as a benchmark. So ये बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट है. हर स्टॉक एक्सचेंज का एक इंडेक्स होता है, एंड जैसे मैं बता रहा था, सेंसेक्स बॉम्बे स्टॉक एक्सचेंज BSE में हम लोग सेंसेक्स कहते हैं, निफ्टी इज फॉर NSE, और यूएस के बाहर, इंडिया के बाहर अगर आप देखेंगे नस्डैक है इन यूएस, then you have the Financial Times Stock Exchange, Dow Jones, वगैरह वगैरह. So when in case of stock market, index numbers are prepared in a very simple, I'm just trying to discuss it in a very simple manner, calculating market capitalization of each individual company. So index calculate करने के लिए हो सकता है 50 कंपनीज का आज की ईयर का जो प्राइस है एज कंपेयर टू द बेस ईयर प्राइस. दैट मीन्स stock market index is nothing but a composite index. That means here the total market capitalization of each individual company is added, is integrated. That means in statistics we use the term sigma to show addition, summation. So it is actually added together. And in this way, index value is calculated, index of the previous day into total market cap for the current day divided by the total market cap for the previous day. So whatever we are learning and applying, whatever techniques, whatever principles of index numbers we are learning in course of chapter 18, you can see that these are successfully applied on a daily basis, not just for the stock markets in India, but for all capital markets across the world, whether it's Japan or whether it's Shanghai, whether it's Hong Kong or European exchanges or whether it's Nasdaq. So that is very important. Now we look at the next type of index, which is the consumer. We can talk about the consumer price index, often known as the CPI. Many times you will see it is sometimes referred to as the CPI, cost of living index, retail price index. So therefore, the idea here is that what is these type of index? What are these types of indices? So retail price index, for example, will measure the effect of change in prices for a basket of goods and services. That means ये composite index, ये individual single index नहीं है, ये composite index है, and the idea is that the entire effect of change in the prices of the basket of goods on the purchasing power of specific class of consumer will be calculated with respect to a base period. Base year, say 2020, 2015, depends. That means ultimately the idea is to express the price or the purchasing power of this year vis-a-vis the purchasing power or the price or the quantity consumed in the base year. Wholesale price index also measures the relative changes in the prices of commodities which are traded in the wholesale market. Now we come to the next point, that is the formula. So as we were discussing that price in the current year, this is price index basic calculation, where we have price in the current year by price in the base year, yani PN to show current year price divided by P0 to show the base year price multiplied by 100. So इससे हम लोगों को एक 100 से हम लोग मल्टीप्लाई कर रहे हैं, मतलब एक परसेंटेज जैसा मिलेगा. And this can be seen as an example of price relative. Quantity relative means Qn by Q0 into 100, where Qn is the quantity consumed or quantity demanded in the current year divided by the quantity consumed or the quantity demanded in the base year. And finally, simple aggregative price index is when we are going for a summation. So that means if we look at this particular slide on the right hand side, on the portion of the slide, the right hand side of the slide, index number therefore is value in the period of interest. That means value of the current year's price level or quantity divided by value in the base period into 100. When the value exceeds 100, so अगर index number 105 है या 110 है या 114 है, इसका क्या अर्थ होता है, क्या मतलब है इसका? So जब इंडेक्स नंबर 100 से अधिक हो जाता है, it indicates an increase in the activity in the economy in general. When the value goes below 100, it will indicate a decrease in the level of activity. सो यहां पे हम लोग देख सकते हैं कि बेस लाइन जो है, बेस ईयर वी आर टेकिंग एट एज 100। अब ईयर 1 में हम लोगों का मान लीजिए कि 110 हो गया, इंडेक्स इज 110। इसका मतलब है परफॉर्मेंस इज 10% हायर देन द बेस लाइन। ईयर 2 में इंडेक्स नंबर is coming to say 100 and say we are assuming it is more than 120। मतलब यहां पे और भी इंप्रूवमेंट हो रहा है। थर्ड ईयर में somehow due to certain reasons, maybe recession, maybe economic downturn, maybe fall in the demand, we find that the index has come down to 90। So this is 10% lower than the baseline। So इस तरह से इंडेक्स नंबर हम लोग कैलकुलेट करके इसको we are trying to show। Companies and economics, they will try to demonstrate, they will try to represent, disclose the movement in the purchasing power, movement in the prices through index numbers। One more example on the left hand side, 1982, we are assuming the price of milk was rupee 1 per liter, index number we are assuming as base year यानी 100। 83 में हो सकता है कि प्राइस ऑफ द मिल्क, एब्सोल्यूट प्राइस जो है वो 1 रुपया 25 पैसा हो गया। सो नाउ द इंडेक्स नंबर यानी 1983 का जो प्राइस है, मिल्क की जो प्राइस है, उसको अगर हम लोग इंडेक्स नंबर में रिप्रेजेंट करेंगे, वो क्या हो रहा है 1.25 बाई 1 रुपी इंटू 100, सो 125। यानी प्राइस में वी कैन सी 25% इंक्रीज हो गया। 1984 में द एब्सोल्यूट प्राइस इज 1 रुपी 50 पैसे पर लीटर। इसको जब इंडेक्स नंबर में हम लोग रिप्रेजेंट करेंगे, you can see that the price in the current year 1.5 divided by the price in the base year multiplied by 100, we are getting 150। yani we can see कि over the period from 1983, 84 and 85 we can see कि milk price is increasing and the trend is visible because we are showing the entire movement in the prices through index numbers। Now we will look at the next point and then we shall move into the question, that is the three important relationships we will go through, that is the Las-Vegas index, Purchase index, and of course Edgeworth-Marshall's index, and lastly we will discuss about the Fisher's ideal index। but उससे पहले हम लोग थोड़ा सा अंडरस्टैंड करने की कोशिश करेंगे बेस पीरियड। इंडेक्स नंबर में तीन जो इंपॉर्टेंट चीजें होती है वो है बेस पीरियड। बेस पीरियड कौन सा ईयर को हम लोग बेस पीरियड के हिसाब से चूज करेंगे वो बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट होता है। एंड फ्यू क्वेश्चंस ऑन दिस चैप्टर कुड कम इवन फ्रॉम द टेक्निकल प्रिंसिपल्स और द थियोरेटिकल प्रिंसिपल्स। एंड इंडेक्स नंबर देयरफॉर इज नॉट जस्ट एन इंटरेस्टिंग चैप्टर, इट इज ऑल्सो अ वेरी स्कोरिंग चैप्टर। Very easy, very simple formula, 3 to 4 important formula which we need to remember, and you will see कि हर formula एक pattern follow करता है और सारे formula linked है। ऐसा नहीं है कि we have to remember 3 totally different formula। We will see that the formula foundation is same, principle is same। तो बेस ईयर हम लोग उस ईयर को चूज करेंगे जहां पे स्टेबल इकोनॉमी वॉज स्टेबल, क्योंकि उस बेस ईयर के हिसाब से बाकी सालों का हम लोग इंडेक्स नंबर निकालेंगे। सो अगर बेस ईयर वो अगर फ्लक्चुएट कर रहा है, अगर बेस ईयर में मान लीजिए कोई लड़ाई हुई है या फिर देयर इज अ फमीन, देयर इज अ पैंडेमिक ईयर, आइडियली वी शुड नॉट टेक इट एज अ बेस ईयर। आई मीन इन प्रैक्टिकल लाइफ फॉर एक्सप्लेनिंग आई कैन ऑलवेज से दैट यस, इफ 2020 इज द बेस ईयर and the current year is 2025, this is the index number। but हम लोग जब प्रैक्टिकली इंडेक्स बनाते हैं इंडिसेस का एक पूरा शेड्यूल बनाते हैं, there usually the year, that year is selected as the base year where there is absolute stability and there is no extraordinary events like war or pandemic or recession or famine। okay, so base period जो है इंडेक्स नंबर का तीन इंपॉर्टेंट जो हिस्सा है, it should be a year which is fairly recent। ऐसा नहीं होनी चाहिए कि बेस ईयर इज 1990 एंड करंट ईयर 2025, नहीं, दिस इज द लेंथ, द ड्यूरेशन, द गैप इज टू हाई। बेस ईयर 1990 एंड करंट ईयर 2025, so 35 years difference। so the index number will never be realistic। next is selection of weights। सो कंपोजिट इंडेक्स नंबर मतलब बहुत सारे, अगर हम लोग बात करेंगे कि 2015 में कॉस्ट ऑफ लिविंग इंडेक्स वर्सेस 2025 का कॉस्ट ऑफ लिविंग इंडेक्स इन अ पर्टिकुलर सिटी, से इट इज जमशेदपुर, और से इट इज बेंगलुरु, or it is Gurugram or Chennai, for example. So there we have to look at different component, different products, different services, which we usually include for the calculation of the cost of living. Food index, yeah, when we calculate the wholesale price index or cost of living index. So weightage of different commodity. फॉर एग्जाम्पल स्टेपल फूड लाइक सीरियल, उसका कितना वेटेज रहेगा उस इंडेक्स में, और शक्कर, शुगर का कितना वेटेज रहेगा, दैट हैज टू बी केयरफुली डिसाइडेड, एंड द वेटेज ऑफ शुगर कैनॉट बी इक्वल टू द वेटेज ऑफ सीरियल्स, बिकॉज सीरियल्स हम लोग ज्यादा कंज्यूम करते हैं एज कंपेयर टू शुगर. चावल हो या गेहूं हम लोग ज्यादा कंज्यूम करते हैं एज कंपेयर टू सॉल्ट. So therefore, in the index calculation, the weights, the individual weights of cereals will be much higher than the weight given to certain products like salt or spices, or say, for example, energy drink, any such matter, any such item. Next, of course, is that choice of variables. That is the third important point. So, यहाँ का जो तीन important point है, first है base period. उस ईयर को बेस पीरियड बनाना चाहिए जहां पे वी विल फाइंड दैट इकोनॉमिक स्टेबिलिटी है, और दूसरी बात है जहां पे जो काफी रिसेंट हो. सेकंड हम लोग देख रहे थे कि सिलेक्शन ऑफ वेट, और तीसरा जो पॉइंट है वेरिएबल. इंडेक्स नंबर्स आर कंस्ट्रक्टेड विद रिगार्ड टू आइदर प्राइस और क्वांटिटी, और इट कैन बी वैल्यू इंडेक्स. सो प्राइस इंडेक्स अगर हम लोग बनाने की कोशिश करेंगे, we have to make sure it is either wholesale price or retail price. And the choice will depend on the purpose. Plus, it is necessary to decide about the period to which such prices will be related. So if a question comes in the exam, or like in the form of an MCQ, that which are the important, principles for construction of index numbers, or for framing, formulation of index numbers, definitely the answers which we have to keep in mind definitely will be base period, weight selection, and the choice of variables. Now, one more example we see here, and this is P01, which stands for the index number, sigma P1, which stands for the sum of the prices for, say, for the current year. Say we are assuming current year is 1988 and base year is 1980. So here we can see that the prices of four commodities A, B, C, and D in the base year is given rupees 10, rupees 15, rupees 40, rupees 25. चार commodity है. We are assuming equal weights for all these four commodities, and the total price of these four commodities in the base year, अगर देखा जाए, it comes to 90 rupees, 10 plus 15 plus 40 plus 25. Now the prices of these commodities, the same commodities, same four commodities in the current year, we are assuming 1988 is the current year, as if we are in 1988. So we see that the sum of the prices is 145. Yani sigma P1 is 145. So index number becomes 145 by 90 into 100. So we are getting the index number of the current year is 161.11. So the absolute sum of the prices in the base year kitna hai? 90 rupiya, 90 rupees. Absolute sum of the prices in the current year 1988 kitna hai? 145 rupees, 145 rupees. These two values, when expressed through an index number, assuming index number base year is 1980, that means wo jo 90 rupiya hai, that is now equal to 100, because base year we will always take it as 100 rupees. So keeping base year price as 100 rupees, we find that the current year's index number has become 161.11. So this is the concept. I hope it is clear. And similarly, even for quantity index numbers, यहाँ पे हम लोग देख सकते हैं 2015 में क्वांटिटी है 200. मान लीजिए द कंजम्पशन ऑफ any cereal or any wheat, say wheat or rice, say 200 kgs. And assuming that the value of this 200 kgs in the year 2015 is 10,000 rupees. And then we have in 2016, if you see this particular table which is given, ये slide number हम लोग 10 में है, अगर आप लोग देखेंगे so you can see the quantity 2015 में क्वांटिटी 200 kgs था, 2016 में 240 हो गया है. So if I calculate pure quantity index, then the quantity index for 2016 is how much? 240 divided by 200 into 100. So we are getting 120. Similarly, quantity index for 2017, the absolute quantity here is 220, 220. So the quantity index is how much? 220 divided by the base year quantity. Yani 220 divided by 200 into 100. And we are getting 110. In this way, we can get the quantity index number. For each of the years, we are getting the quantity index number. For these index numbers, if I think of a value, that means ये 200 क्विंटल या 200 किलोग्राम का जो हम लोग क्वांटिटी की बात कर रहे हैं, say the value is 10,000 rupees and the same value 2015 में जो 10,000 था, that value in 2016 has become 12,480. It is very simple. What we could buy, say the price of a particular commodity in 2020 and the price today has a lot of difference. So there is a change in the value. In fact, as we know, the value sometimes depreciates, value sometimes could appreciate, depending on the economic scenario. So in this case, 12,480 is the value of that particular quantity in 2016. So value index number क्या होगा? 12,480 value in 2016 divided by the value in 2015. How much is the value in 2015? It is 10,000 rupees. So 12,480 by 10,000 into 100, we are getting 124.8. This is the value index number for 2016. Similarly, we can calculate the value index number for 2017. So हम लोग 2017 का वैल्यू ले रहे हैं 12,320 and we are dividing it by the value in the base year. यहाँ पे base year 2015 है. So we are dividing the value 12,320 by 10,000 and we are getting the value index number 123.2. In this way, for each of the years in this particular table, we have calculated the quantity index number for 2018, 19, and also the value index number for 2018 and 19. Base year in both the case is 2015. That is why the quantity index number is 100. Also, the value index number is designated as 100 for the year 2015 because the base year in this example is 2015. Okay, now we will look into the aggregative index, and in aggregative index, we will weigh the price of each commodity by a suitable factor. So that means price of first item into the weightage of the first item plus price of the second item into the particular weightage of the second item. इस तरह से हम लोग पूरा summation यानी sigma अप्लाई करेंगे. So ये जो एग्जाम के लिए very important is the different formula, the different forms of weighted aggregative index. For our curriculum in the exam, we have to understand last period index, which basically in this index, the base year quantity will be used as the weight. That means base year quantity हम लोग दिखाएंगे in the form of Q0, quantity in the year 0, base year Q0. In past year's index, we will see that in this index, current year quantity will be used as the weight. That means Q1, we are assuming Q1 as the quantity which is used or which is consumed in the current year. So current year quantity will be used. Marshall Edgeworth index here we will see that in this example of index number, of course, it's an aggregative index, weighted aggregative index. We shall see that in this method, the average of the base year and the current year will be taken as the particular weight. And finally, we have the Fisher's ideal price index, which is the geometric mean of the last period index and the past year's index. So please remember, last period index uses base year quantity Q0 both for numerator and denominator. For past year's index, we will use the current year quantity, that is Q1, both for numerator and denominator. And in case of Fisher's ideal index, we will find that it is a geometric mean of the last period index and the past year's index. So let us see the formula. The first one we can see is the last period index. So this particular index, this particular method, what does it do? Here the weights, of course, you can see this was developed by Las Perez in 1871. In this method, the weights are determined by the quantities in the base year, yani Q0, both for numerator and denominator. Yani the price of each of the commodity in the current year, but they are multiplied by the weights, the quantity. Quantity kya hai? Quantity which is used in the base year. Now we look at past year's index. ये भी काफी साल पहले 1874 in the 19th century, the well-known German statistician Pasche, he developed this particular index, and here we will see that the quantity which is used as the weight is basically the quantity of the current year. So the weight of the current year is used as for the base year for both in fact, you can see P1 Q1 divided by sigma P0 Q1. So weight is basically the current year commodity quantity. Now we will look at last period index. We have seen P1 Q0 by P0 Q0 into 100. Past year's index is P1 Q1 because current year weight is used divided by P0 Q1. Of course, we have sigma in both numerator and denominator. Marshall's Edgeworth's price index number, here we can see P1 Q0 plus P1 Q1. That means numerator of last period index plus numerator of past year's index is used. And the denominator, if you see the denominator of Marshall Edgeworth's price index number, if you see the denominator, we have sigma P0 Q0 plus sigma P0 Q1. So this is nothing but the denominator of last period index plus the denominator of past year's index. And finally, Fisher's index number, which is seen as the most well-rounded ideal index number. This is nothing but the geometric mean of last period index and past year's index. So for the exam, most of the questions which involves computation, calculation will circle around last period index, past year's index, and Fisher's index. Of course, we should also be aware and conversant with Marshall Edgeworth's price index number. And from here, most of the questions will flow. So in case of last period index, the quantity used is Q0. For past year's index, the weights or the quantity is Q1. And for Fisher's ideal formula, it is the geometric mean of two indices. One is last period index and the other is past year's index. Dorbish and Bowley's formula, it is technically, it is not part of our curriculum, but just to be conversant or just to be aware, this Dorbish and Bowley's formula, another index number is, as you can see, it is the simple average of last period index and past year's index. Okay, so now we will look at the next discussion is the chain index, and then after that we will move to number of practical examples and calculations. So chain index, let us see the example of chain index. So let us see this particular example here. Chain index What is the objective of chain index? Let us see. Now, in this particular slide, we can see a table starting with the year 1979 till 1988. So the price, absolute price in 1979 for a particular commodity was 750 rupees. But in 1980, the price has come down to 500, and then 81, we can see 650 and so on. So we are first calculating the linked relatives, keeping 750 as the base year. That means the 1979 is the base year. So the price of 750 now gets the equivalent. It's becoming the equivalent of 100 because 1979 is the base year, baseline. And now on the basis of 1979's price, the link relative for 1980 is calculated 500 by 750 into 100. So we are getting a link relative of 66.67. In 1981, the price of that commodity in 1981 divided by the price of the commodity in 1980. It's not 79 now, it is 80. And we can see this is how we calculate the link relative. And from there, the chain-based index number is calculated. Okay, now we will look at the next point, which is the quantity index number. To measure and compare prices, we use price index numbers, and price index number is of vital importance, especially for calculation of the cost of living index and wholesale price index, consumer price index, and so on. But sometimes we may have to measure and compare quantity. In that situation, we have to resort to quantity index numbers. So what is the quantity index number? Quantity index number is used to indicate the level of output. So you are all conversant with GDP, gross domestic product. So what is the level of total output in the economy? Total manufactured, say for example, the total quantity of goods manufactured this year vis-a-vis the total quantity of goods manufactured in 2023, for example. So to calculate and demonstrate the ratio of quantities produced, quantities demanded, quantities consumed in 2 or more number of years, quantity index numbers are used. It is as simple as price index. In case of price index numbers, we know the formula is, basic formula is Pn by P0 into 100, where Pn signifies the price of the current year, price in the current year. P0 signifies the price in the base year. Similarly, for calculation of quantity relatives, price relative Pn by P0 into 100, quantity relative Qn by Q0 into 100, where Qn or Qt, for example, is the quantity of the current year or the tth year or the nth year, Qn or Qt, whatever be the designation. Q0 is the quantity in the base period. So this is how the quantity relative or the quantity index numbers are conceptualized. So accordingly, Las quantity index therefore will be what? It will be Q1 by Q0, sigma Q1 into P0 by sigma Q0 into P0. Last price index was sigma, if you remember, sigma P1 Q0 by sigma P0 Q0 into 100. The idea is that we are taking for price index, last price index, we are considering the price of the current year, but the quantity, the weights, is the quantity of the base year, Q0. Here it is just the reverse, quantity index. So here we will consider the quantity used in the current year, Q1 instead of P1, Q0 instead of P0. And when it comes to the weights, in the price index, last price index, the weight was Q0. But here the weight is P0. So last quantity index becomes sigma Q1 P0 divided by sigma Q0 P0 into 100. Moving on to purchase quantity index. Same principle, purchase quantity index or purchase index in general deals with the weight. The weight should be either the quantity or the price of the current year. Accordingly, when we calculated purchase price index, we had used the formula sigma P1Q1 by sigma P0Q1 into 100. Q1 coming in both numerator and denominator as part of the weight because Q1 is the quantity of the current year. Purchase quantity index is just the reverse. So here we are having, instead of P1 in the numerator, we have sigma Q1 P1 because here Q1 is the quantity index. So Q1 will come first, multiplied by the weight. Here the weight has become the price of the current year. In purchase price index, the weight is what? The weight in purchase price index is the quantity of the current year. And in purchase quantity index, the weight is the price in the current year. So the focus is that in purchase index, whether price or quantity, weight क्या होगा? Weight होगा इस साल का, current year का, either price or quantity. So इसको ध्यान में रखना है कि लास्ट पीरियड इंडेक्स का जो एकदम एसेंस की अगर बात करें, क्रक्स की बात करें, अंडरलाइंग प्रिंसिपल अगर हम लोग समझने की कोशिश करें, तो अंडरलाइंग प्रिंसिपल इज दैट द वेट विल बी बेस ईयर. But in case of purchase index, whether price index या quantity index, the weight is current year. Current year price हो सकता है, which is shown by P1. It can be current year quantity, which is shown by Q1. Okay, so this is something I hope you are able to follow and understand. Fisher's quantity index. It is nothing but the geometric mean of two indices. First is last period's quantity index and purchase quantity index. So exam में ऐसे काफी बार question MTP में भी दिया हुआ है, where we find that you are given 4 data. P0, you are given Q0, you are given P1, you are given Q1. And then the question could be that which out of the following option is the correct value of, say, purchase quantity index. So आपको देखना है कि purchase quantity index कहाँ है. That means the formula is sigma Q1 P1 by sigma Q0 P1. वो हम लोगों को भूलना नहीं चाहिए कि purchase index अगर कहें, इसका मतलब अर्थ यही है कि वेट जो होगा वो करंट ईयर होगा. करंट ईयर प्राइस हो सकता है या फिर करंट ईयर क्वांटिटी. ओके, नाउ वी विल मूव टू द वैल्यू इंडेक्स. सो इसमें अभी हम लोग बात करेंगे कि अगर वैल्यू इंडेक्स क्या है. नाउ अभी हम लोग देख रहे थे कि वैल्यू इंडेक्स, प्राइस इंडेक्स, वी सॉ दैट price relative is Pn by P0 into 100. Quantity relative is how much? Qn by Q0 into 100. Purchase in last period index we have seen. Last period price index की अगर बात करें, so last period price index is what? Sigma P1 Q0, यानी price of current year into quantity of base year. ये न्यूमरेटर में है. डिनोमिनेटर में क्या है? Sigma P0 Q0, यानी price of the base year but and quantity of the base year. Purchase index में क्या है? In purchase index we are having sigma P1 Q1 as the numerator, यानी price of current year, लेकिन quantity also current year. And denominator we have P0 Q1, sigma P0 Q1, that is price of the base year, but it is multiplied by the quantity of the current year. Value index में क्या होगा? Value index में यही होगा that the idea is that in case of value index, we will see that the index is basically P1 Q1 divided by P0 Q0. In other words, we can say the value index is measuring changes in both the price and quantity involved. लास्ट पीरियड इंडेक्स में अगर देखा जाए, न्यूमरेटर डिनोमिनेटर दोनों में कॉमन फैक्टर है Q0, यानी क्वांटिटी ऑफ द बेस ईयर इज कंसिडर्ड टू बी द वेट. पास्चेज इंडेक्स अगर हम लोग बात करें, एनालाइज करें, तो उसमें अंडरलाइन कॉन्सेप्ट यही है कि पास्चेज इंडेक्स में वेट विल बी द करंट ईयर क्वांटिटी. But in case of value index, since value index price, basically what is value index? Price multiplied by quantity. That is value. So the value index will be equal to the total sum of the values of a given year divided by the sum of the values of the base year. Value of the current year क्या है? Price I am paying in the current year multiplied by quantity in the current year. So चलिए एक छोटा सा एग्जांपल लेते हैं कि प्राइस ये वर्बली करते हैं. आई एम जस्ट यूजिंग पेन एंड पेपर. पीएन यानी आज का प्राइस मान लीजिए इट इज से 20 रुपीज. चलिए आज का प्राइस पीएन. P0 इज से 15 रुपीज. क्यूएन यानी आज का क्वांटिटी से इट इज लेट अस से 10 and Q0 is 8. So I have taken four very simple numbers. Pn is 20, Qn is 10, P0 is 15, Q0 is 8. So if I calculate, first of all, purchase index, sorry, last period index, L for last period index. Last period price index अगर हम लोग निकालेंगे, simple form, it will be करंट प्राइस, करंट ईयर प्राइस यानी 20. न्यूमरेटर में क्या होगा? 20 करंट ईयर प्राइस मल्टीप्लाइड बाय बेस ईयर क्वांटिटी यानी 20 into 8. Of course we are assuming it to be a simple, I'm just for sake of calculation, for simplicity we are not getting into any composite index, but just simple funda, simple essence. न्यूमरेटर में क्या आएगा? P0 into Q0. So in our example P0 is 15 and Q0 is 8. So basically the ratio becomes 20 into 8 by 15 into 8, that is 20 by 15. This is last periods. If I use the principle of purchase, Pn into Qn divided by P0 into Qn. Here Pn is 20, but we have to take current year quantity as the weight. So numerator में आएगा current year price into current year quantity यानी 20 into 10. न्यूमरेटर हो गया. डिनोमिनेटर में क्या आएगा? प्राइस इन द बेस ईयर मल्टीप्लाइड बाय क्वांटिटी इन द करंट ईयर यानी 15 into 8. So numerator is 20 into 10, denominator is 15 into, sorry, denominator is also 15 into 10 because we are taking current year. So the ratio becomes, in this case, when we calculate this, we are getting again 20 by 15. But of course, it's getting cancelled because it's a simple aggregate, simple, index number. But the concept in value index is what? In the numerator, it will be the price multiplied by the quantity of the current year. That means in this case, the price in the current year is 20 and the quantity in the current year is 10. So numerator will be 20 into 10. This is value index concept. So 20 into 10 is 200 and numerator हो गया. Denominator में क्या आएगा? P0 into Q0. यानी value in the base period, value in the base year. Value in the base year is what? Price in the base year multiplied by quantity in the base year. So price in the base year is 15 and quantity in the base year is 8. So numerator becomes 20 into 10 and the denominator becomes 15 into 8. So the ratio is 200 by 120, that is 100 by 60, that is 50 by, and you can of course simplify this ratio. So this is value index. So in the lower part of the slide we can see value index is sigma P1 Q1 divided by sigma P0 Q0 into 100. Now we will come to usefulness of index numbers and then we will move to the tests like time reversal test and factor reversal test. So usefulness of index number फिर क्या है? First and foremost, it provides guidelines for decision making because यहाँ पे एक हम लोग economic research की अगर बात करें या फिर when we talk about any type of research done in public finance, purchasing power parity, index numbers are used to a great extent. Second is they reveal trends and tendencies for understanding whether there is any cyclical force, cyclical nature in the economy, whether there is any irregular or extraordinary item, extraordinary economic, any type of economic event taking place. Number three, if we see, is they are important in forecasting future economic activity also, and they are used in time series analysis to study long-term trend. That means we see there is a connectivity between time series and index numbers. So many of the chapters in statistics are closely related. There's no doubt about it, and each are dependent on each other. Index numbers are also used in deflating. That means they are used to adjust the original data for price changes. We will see 2-3 important numerical example. To transform nominal wage into real wage, how it is done, the process of deflation, we will see that. And cost of living index numbers measures the changes in cost of living over a given period, year to year. Index number also has certain limitations. So since a lot of calculation is involved, and these are the calculations, the input are collected from different samples. So there could be chances of error which can creep in. Number two is index numbers are based on some selected items. They simply depict the broad trend and not the real picture. And since many methods are employed for construction of index numbers, the result gives different values, and this might create some sort of confusion. So these are the positives and the negatives, or we can call it the advantages, the benefits vis-a-vis the challenges or the disadvantages or the limitations of using index numbers. And as we have seen that, yes, for index numbers, the usefulness or the benefit of using index numbers outweigh the limitations. That is why index numbers are used widely in across different domains, including economics, public finance, of course, in capital market analysis as well. Now we move to some important formula for the exam preparation. And we were discussing in the last session also that how to remember the important formula and how to make sure we are able to recall the formula under the pressure of exams. So for index numbers, if we see all the formula, of course, most importantly, the questions keep coming on price index, quantity index questions have also come. So for the price index numbers, a list of the important formula which we may follow for our exam preparation. So we have simple aggregative price index, which is sigma Pn by sigma P0 into 100, which we have already discussed in the very beginning. So here we see it is a pure calculation involving prices. Las Vegas index, we have already noted several times that the base year quantity is used as the weights. So please do remember and quickly recall sigma Pn into Q0 by sigma P0 into Q0 into 100. This is the Las Vegas index. Of course, Las Vegas price index. Purchase price index, we have seen the essential difference. In the case of purchase index, the current year quantity will be used as the weights. Consequently, purchase index is sigma Pn Qn divided by sigma P0 Qn into 100. Thereafter, we have the Marshall-Edgeworth index, which is the method computed by taking the average of the base year and the current year. So when we talk about taking the average of the base year and the current year, for the price index, what will be the weight? It will be Q0 plus Qn by 2. Simple average of the base year quantity and the current year quantity, that is Q0 plus Qn divided by 2. Consequently, Marshall-Edgeworth's index, price index, becomes sigma Pn multiplied by Q0 plus Qn. That is, it is the average, simple average of the base year quantity and the current year quantity divided by sigma P0, that is the base year price multiplied again by Q0 plus Qn. Then the Fisher's ideal price index, which is the geometric mean of last period's index and past year's index. And chain index we have discussed. So most important trend if we see is that the formula for last period's index, past year's index, Marshall-Edgeworth index and Fisher's ideal index, ideal price index or ideal quantity index. So we need to remember and recall these important formulae because several questions in the past years in the exam have come on these important four pillars. I will call it the four pillars of index numbers. So you have the last period's index, the past year's index, Marshall-Edgeworth and Fisher's index. And each are related. In one particular index number, the base year quantity is used. In another type of index number, the current year quantity is used as the weight. In another index number, it is the simple average of base year and current year, Q0 plus Qn by 2. That is the only difference. Otherwise, it's a very simple chapter. But yes, we are not discussing only about these four formula. We are going for an inclusive, comprehensive coverage of chapter 18 by starting from the ABCD. What is index? What is index number? What is price relative? What is simple index number? What is composite index number? So we are going and covering each area because questions could come from any part of the chapter, not necessarily that the question has to come based on the formula. It could come from the principles also, the technicalities of index numbers. That's why we covered the discussion on the usage applications of index numbers and delved deep into the construction of index numbers in the capital market. And we also talked about how the Sensex, Nifty, Nasdaq index, these are structured. Okay. Quantity index number, summary of all the important formula which we need to remember. Simple aggregative quantity index, sigma Qn by sigma Q0. Simple average of quantity relatives we can understand. Quantity, weighted average quantity index, we will first have the last period's quantity index, which is sigma Qn P0. Qn, quantity of current year, multiplied by the weight of the base year. So sigma Qn P0 divided by sigma Q0 P0. Next is past year's quantity index. So it will be what? Sigma Qn, quantity of current year, multiplied by Pn, price of the current year, divided by sigma Q0 into Pn, quantity of base year into price of current year. Here the prices are becoming the weights. Geometric mean of 1 and 2 will give us, that is geometric mean of last period's quantity index and the geometric, and if you compute, once we compute the last period's quantity index and past year's quantity index, we can easily find out the geometric mean of these two numbers. That number becomes Fisher's ideal quantity index. Last but not the least, we have discussed about value indices, which is Vn by V0. What is Vn? Value of the current year. What is V0? V0 क्या है? Value of the base year. अब करंट ईयर का वैल्यू कैसे निकालेंगे? Vn, Vn is what? Quantity of the current year into price of the current year, यानी सिग्मा Pn into Qn. और बेस ईयर जो है V0, उसका वैल्यू कैसे निकालेंगे? इट इज द प्राइस इन द बेस ईयर इंटू क्वांटिटी इन द बेस ईयर, यानी सिग्मा P0 Q0. तो ये है वैल्यू इंडेक्स. नाउ शिफ्टिंग एंड स्प्लाइसिंग ऑफ इंडेक्स नंबर्स, जो कि हम लोग का इंडेक्स नंबर का लास्ट इंपॉर्टेंट प्रिंसिपल. इसके बाद हम लोग एग्जाम्पल्स में चले जाएंगे और उसके बाद एमसीक्यूज में अपना ध्यान लगाएंगे. सो शिफ्टिंग एंड स्प्लाइसिंग. Shifting means base year of the index is shifted. काफी बार ऐसा होता है कि गवर्नमेंट ऑफ इंडिया, रेगुलेटरी बॉडीज, वो लोग डिसाइड करते हैं कि भाई 2005 बेस ईयर था लेकिन अभी 2025 हो गया, भाई बेस ईयर चेंज करिए, 2005 को 2015 में कन्वर्ट करिए, लेट द न्यू बेस ईयर बिकम 2015, because we have seen one of the feature of, or one of the important principle of index number is that the current year and the base year must be close. There should not be unnecessary gap, 10 years, 15, 20 years gap between the base year and the current year. This should not be the case. As a result, काफी बार ऐसा होता है कि there arises a need for shifting of the base year. सो ये जो एग्जाम्पल अभी हम लोग का स्लाइड में है, स्लाइड नंबर 26, स्लाइड नंबर 26, और द फर्स्ट column, in the first column you can see year is given, and the year is from 2011 till 2022. सेकेंड कॉलम ओरिजिनल प्राइस इंडेक्स है. सो हम लोग पहले 2011 यानी 2011 को बेस ईयर मान के चलेंगे. So accordingly, price index is given 100, क्योंकि बेस ईयर हमेशा हम लोग 100 से शो करेंगे. We will depict base year with the index of 100. 2012 the price index is 104, 100, and then going ahead we see 106, 7 and so on. Now the intention is to shift. The intention is to shift the बेस ईयर, और इसको क्या करेंगे, बेस ईयर 2021 बना देंगे. ओरिजिनल बेस ईयर वाज 2011. नाउ द इंटेंशन इज टू शिफ्ट द बेस ईयर फ्रॉम 2011 टू 2021. अकॉर्डिंगली क्या किया जा रहा है, लेट अस सी. शिफ्टिंग ऑफ द प्राइस इंडेक्स, तीसरी जो थर्ड कॉलम पे अगर हम लोग ध्यान देंगे, वी कैन सी दैट नाउ फॉर 2011 द रिवाइज्ड या शिफ्टेड प्राइस इंडेक्स अभी क्या हो गया, नया जो प्राइस इंडेक्स है 2021 का जो प्राइस इंडेक्स, उसको अभी हम लोग 100 मान के 100 मान के चलेंगे, बिकॉज दिस इज नाउ द न्यू बेस ईयर. सो यू कैन सी इन द थर्ड कॉलम बिसाइड 2021, कॉलम 3, original price index for 2021 is 140, but now since it is becoming the new base year, the shifted price index of 2021 has become 100. Accordingly 2011 का अगर हम लोग प्राइस इंडेक्स निकालेंगे विद द बेस 2021, अभी 2011 इज नो लॉन्गर बेस ईयर, अभी बेस ईयर बन गया 2021. So therefore the shifted price index is how much? Let us calculate. Price index of 2011 यानी 100 divided by 140 into 100. So अगर झट से हम लोग कैलकुलेटर में काम करेंगे, 100 divided by 140 into 100, so this becomes 71.4. So for 2011 the shifted price index is now 71.4. Similarly for 2014, let us see. 2014 the original price index is 107. The new base year is 2021. So the shifted price index for 2014 becomes 107. So let us do 107 divided by 140. 140 is the original price index of 2021. So divided by 140 into 100 करते हैं. So we are getting 76.4. This is the shifted price index of the year 2014 as calculated with the base of 2021. Now, if I take 2022, the original price index is how much? 147. So, the shifted price index of 2022 with the base 2021 becomes how much? 147 divided by 140 into 100. Exactly, it comes to 105. 105.0. So shifted price index of 2022 यानी रो नंबर 3 कॉलम नंबर 3 अगर देखा जाए, the value is 105. So this is the concept of shifting of index numbers, and a very related, there is no rocket science in this chapter, not a very difficult, it's quite easy. Ultimately, we are dealing with 3 or 4 formula, but yes, apart from this 4 formula, mechanically we are not remembering, we are understanding. यहाँ पे प्राइस रिलेटिव है, क्वांटिटी रिलेटिव है, apart from last Pires index, Pastures index, Edgeworth Marshall's index, or Fisher's index, we have calculated value index as well. Plus, we have now seen the important principle of the shifting of the base year. अभी हम लोग देखेंगे splicing, last part of this chapter. Splicing two sets of index number covering different periods of time is required in certain cases. When there is a major change in the quantity weights, quantity बदल सकता है with more and more time moving forward. Also, it may be necessary on account of a new method of calculation or the inclusion of new commodity in the index. So this is the need for splicing of two index number series. So in this comprehensive example, which we see on slide number 27, which is in front of you, so we can see on the first column 2010 से शुरू करके ये चल रहा है 2020 तक. Okay. So in the second column, we have the old price index, which starts from 2010. 2010 is the base year. It is assumed to be the base year. So old price index starts with 100. And then 2011, we have 102.3. 2012 is 105.3 and so on. But please see, in 2015, there is a change, and accordingly, revised price index, we are now keeping 2015 as the base year. Yani, old series of index starts from 2010 and continues till 2015. And now, the base year is shifted from 2010 to 2015. Accordingly, please see the column number 3, where the heading is given revised price index. So column number 3 में हम लोग देख सकते हैं कि अभी new series of index numbers have commenced, have started from 2015. So this is like splicing of two index number series. दो series है, एक series 2010 में शुरू होके 2015 में खत्म हो रहा है, दूसरा series 2015 से शुरू होके 2020 में खत्म हो रहा है. So the spliced price index, जो column number 4, जो चौथा कॉलम, उसमें हम लोग देख सकते हैं दैट स्प्लाइसिंग कैसे किया गया है. नाउ द बेस ईयर हैज बिकम 100. द ईयर इज 2015 and therefore revised price index for 2015 is 100. So base year is now shifted to 2015. Accordingly, we can see the splicing has been done. So therefore, looking at the splicing which is being done, there are two series, old series 2010, it is now converted by shifting to the base 2015. So now 114.2, which was basically the old price index, now becomes 100 in the new price index, because it is in the revised price index. 2015 is now becoming the new base year. So therefore, we can see that for 2016, अगर देखा जाए for 2016, 102.5 is the revised price index. Let us take 2012. अगर 2012 हम लोग लेंगे, old price index is how much? 105.3. So we are taking 2012. I'm just roughed. I have paper in front of me, pen and paper. I'm just trying to work it out and then compare it with the last column. 2012, my old price index is 105.3, and I know that the year 2015 is now becoming the new base year. But the old price index of 2015 is 114.2. So the spliced price index for 2012 now becomes how much? The calculation is 105.3, which is the old price index of 2012, divided by 114.2, which is the old price index of 2015, into 100, and you will get the value 92.2. So in my calculator, I'm getting 92.2, and therefore the value given in the fourth column is correct. Fourth column, and a row is 1, 2, 3, fourth row. It is 92.2. Similarly, for 2014, let us calculate. 2014. Splicing हम लोग कर रहे हैं. 2014 old price index is 111.9. So we want to find out the spliced price index. So two index series are now combined. So column number 2, we can see series, old price index series, like time series data. एक price index series चल रहा है, 2010 में शुरू हो रहा है, 2015 में खत्म हो रहा है. कॉलम नंबर 3 में हम लोग देख रहे हैं कि रिवाइज्ड प्राइस इंडेक्स 2015 में शुरू होके 2020 में खत्म हो रहा है. और चौथा लास्ट जो हम लोग का कॉलम है, there we can see ultimately these are combined together with a little adjustment. So for 2014, if I am calculating the revised, the spliced price index, because now the base year has got shifted to 2015. So the formula here is 111. The value will be old price index of 2014, which is 111.9 divided by the old price index of 2015, that is 114.2 into 100. So चलिए देखते हैं कितना वैल्यू आएगा इसमें. So we can see 111.9 divided by 114.2 into 100 gives us 97.98598. 97.98598. We are rounding it off to 98% or 98. And we can see in the fourth column, against the year 2014, the spliced price index is 98. So I hope you are able to follow. Till now, we have covered maximum technical areas of this particular chapter, including the shifting and the splicing. Lastly, we have test of adequacy. Very simple. We are not going into the technicalities of the test, but please remember that when we talk about the test, the most common and the most usual, adequacy test is the time adequacy, sometimes called the time reversal test. So time reversal test means that if the two indices, any index number, last period index, past year's index, Fisher's index, the two indices, are they reciprocal of each other? That means symbolically can we say that P01 index number with the base 0 multiplied by P10, that means index number with the base 1, that is current year, that means they are reciprocals of each other. Is the product of these two index number, is it equal to 1? If it is equal to 1, then the index number is going to satisfy the time reversal test or the time adequacy test. TRT we call, most commonly we refer to it as TRT. Now, if we just do a quick calculation by applying the formula, and if I put it that in the equation P01 into P10, then it will be easily demonstrated that last period's method and past year's method do not satisfy the time reversal test. The only index number which satisfies time reversal test is Fisher's index number. That is why, specifically because of this reason, Fisher's index number is known as the ideal index number. And this comes as a question several times. It has come. So P01, if it is equal to 1 by P10, that means if P01 is equal to P10, P01 is the price index for the year 1 with the base 0, and P10 is the price index of the year 0 with 1 as the base. So if this happens, then we can say time reversal test is satisfied. Okay. So time reversal test, in the words of Fisher, he has said that the test is that the Fisher's ideal index, the person, the genius who calculated, who developed Fisher's index, he has said in his very words, he says, quote, the test is that the formula for calculating the index number should be such that it will give the same ratio between one point of comparison and the other, no matter which of the two is taken as the base. यानी 0 ईयर को बेस लिया जाए या करंट ईयर को बेस लिया जाए, अगर P01 is equal to P01 into P10 is equal to 1. That means if one of the index is a perfect reciprocal of the other, then time reversal test is satisfied. So P01 into P10 खाली केवल मात्र Fisher's ideal index में ही ये applicable है. Fisher's ideal index is able to satisfy this test. Last previous index and past year's index will not be able to satisfy. In this slide, you can quickly see I have given an example. The entire logic P01 using last previous index is sigma P1Q0 divided by sigma P0Q0. P10 is sigma P0Q1 divided by sigma P1Q1. Because in case of P10, now the base year becomes the current year. Current year is taken as the base year. So in Lasperius P10 index, please see the quantity in both numerator and denominator is Q1. That is current year quantity. And if I multiply both these index numbers, P01 into P10, sorry, it does not equal to 1. So we can say Lasperius index does not satisfy the time reversal test. If we take past year's index, will it work? Let us see. Past year's index P01 will be sigma P1Q1 by sigma P0Q1. Past year's index P01. That means past year's index with the base year, with 0 as the base year. P10, past year's index, becomes sigma. Here, please note, the base year is now the current year. So it now becomes sigma P0. P10 we are doing. Past year's index. So it now becomes sigma P0Q0 by sigma P1Q0. Because now we can see that here it is now becoming P10 calculation. So if I multiply, sorry, it will not come to 1. Now, only for the Fisher's ideal index, when we see the proof, mathematical proof, how Fisher's ideal formula satisfies the test, we can see that yes, only the Fisher's formula will satisfy this particular test. So please remember, Fisher's ideal index will satisfy time reversal test. Last two is factor reversal test. Factor reversal test means that the product of the index, price index and the quantity index should be equal to the corresponding value index. Please remember, value index is basically P0Q0, that is valuing the base year, and P1Q1, that is valuing the current year. So we are essentially multiplying current year price into current year quantity, base year price into base year quantity. Please remember, that is value index. So if product of price index and quantity index, that can be last previous index, वो past year's index हो सकता है, कोई भी इंडेक्स नंबर का, अगर हम लोग उसी चीज का प्राइस इंडेक्स और क्वांटिटी इंडेक्स मल्टीप्लाई करेंगे, और अगर उस मल्टीप्लिकेशन यानी उस प्रोडक्ट इट बिकम्स इक्वल टू द कॉरेस्पॉन्डिंग वैल्यू इंडेक्स, then the index number satisfies factor reversal test. Here also we find that Fisher's ideal index is the only index number which will satisfy factor reversal test. और ये दोनों कारण के लिए फिशर्स इंडेक्स नंबर को आइडियल इंडेक्स नंबर कहलाता है। और सर्कुलर टेस्ट है जहां पे हम लोग एक बेस शिफ्टिंग होता है। फॉर एग्जांपल इफ 1970 इंडेक्स with the base 1965 is 200, 70 to 65 and 65 to 60 is 150, then 1970 to 1960 is how much? It will be 200 into 150. That is ultimately it is coming to, if you see that the calculation, it comes to 300. So this is basically the circular test. Circular test is not met by any of the major indices, that is last period index meet nahi karta, past years meet nahi karta, Fisher's index also does not meet. Okay. Now we will look at some of the solved examples, important exam type of questions from the numerical examples. First one we can see, this is slide number 36. We can see the first one. I'll come to the first one. Net monthly salary of an employee was 30,000. Very important question for the exam. Similar questions have come in the past few years, and very, I think if you minutely understand this solution, you will find even in the mock test paper, model test paper, revisional test paper, similar examples have been solved and questions have come. So net monthly salary of an employee is 30,000 in the year 2000. Consumer price index is 2015. Consumer price index 2015 is 250 with 2000 as the base year. If this employee has to be rightly compensated, what will be the dearness allowance? I was mentioning the word dearness allowance in the beginning. So सन 2000 में एक एम्प्लॉय का सैलरी हुआ करता था कितना? 30,000. Okay, 30,000. Very good. In 2000, his salary is 30,000 rupees. In 2015, अगर देखा जाए 2000 से 2015 में, you can see that the consumer price index has become 250. यानी base year was 2000. So consumer price index in 2000 we will take it as 100. And the consumer price index in 2015, 15 साल में, it has become 250. 2000 is the base year. It is given in the problem. So therefore, we can say that the monetary wages, this gentleman, this employee was getting 30,000 in 2000, in the year 2000. So if we say that in 2000, the consumer price index is 100, and in 2015, now the consumer price index has become 250. So we can say that there is, what is the level of, what is the multiplier? 250 by 100. बेस ईयर 100 है, करंट ईयर 250 है. सो बेस ईयर में इस एम्प्लॉय का सैलरी था 30,000. सो अभी इस साल उसका सैलरी कितनी होनी चाहिए? सो वी विल राइट 30,000 into 250 by 100, which comes to 75,000. लेकिन इस एम्प्लॉय का करंटली उसको 30,000 मिलता था, आज की डेट में उसको 75,000 मिलनी चाहिए. दैट मींस द डियरनेस अलाउंस व्हिच शुड बी पेड टू द एम्प्लॉय विल बी हाउ मच? 75,000 minus 30,000, यानी 45,000 which should be paid to the employee in the form of dearness allowance or DA. Next question is consumer price index numbers goes up from 110 to 200. So consumer price index was 110. अभी ये 200, it is increased to 200. Parallelly, एक वर्कर की सैलरी is increased from 330 rupees to 500 rupees. ठीक है. क्वेश्चन ये है कि in real terms to maintain his previous standard of living, what should be the additional amount he will get or he should get? Interesting, relevant, and exam type, typical exam type questions. So apart from direct questions on the important formula, last period index, past year's index, Edgeworth-Marshall's index, and Fisher's index. Also, please remember value index and quantity index. Keeping aside these type of problems, another type of problems equally important is these type of questions where we are looking at absolute monetary wages, real wages, and calculations adjustments. So here we see that initially the price index was 100, now it has become 200. Very good. Double ho gaya. Very good. An employee was getting 330 rupees, now his salary has become 500. So what is the real wages? Now, question is that in the base year, his real salary is how much? His real salary in the base year is the monetary wages divided by the cost of living index in the base year. So monetary wages कितना है? 330 रुपया उसको मिलता था, और इंडेक्स नंबर फॉर द बेस, अगर कॉस्ट ऑफ लिविंग इंडेक्स इन द बेस ईयर हम लोग बात करेंगे, वो है 110. इसको अगर 100 से मल्टीप्लाई करेंगे, वी आर गेटिंग 300. 300 रुपीज इज बेसिकली हिज रियल वेजेस फॉर द बेस ईयर. सो उसका रियल वेजेस फॉर बेस ईयर इज 300. नाउ वी विल कैलकुलेट रियल वेजेस फॉर द करंट ईयर. रियल वेजेस फॉर द करंट ईयर क्या होगा? The monetary wages in the current year divided by the cost of living index of the current year. अब इस एम्प्लॉय को करंट ईयर में सैलरी कितना मिल रहा है? 500. The person is getting a salary of how much? 500. Okay. And we can see that the price index in the current year has become 200. So his real wages for the current year becomes 500 by 200 into 100, जो कि 250 रुपया. So we can come to the conclusion that whatever has happened in the economy, but this employee is facing a crisis because his real wages for the base year was 300, but now his real wages is 250. That means he is not compensated. He is losing value. It's a loss of 50 rupees in real terms. So I hope you have been able to understand this one. Very interesting example. Now we move on to the next question, that is, if the price of a commodity has increased by 30% over the base period, then the index number of the place is what? So commodity का भाव में 30% गिरावट हुआ है. So if the base price was 100, now it is 30% reduced. So आज की प्राइस क्या होगा? 100 minus 30% of 100, यानी 70. So index number of that particular product of current year becomes 70. So this is a fairly easy one. The next one we are taking is another very appropriate type of exam question. If with an increase of 10% in prices, the rise in wages is 20%, then the real wages has increased by how much? Question is, if with an increase of 10% in prices, the rise in wages is 20%, then the real wages has increased by how much? So here we can say that real wages, as we have seen, is real wages of current year by real wages of base year. Increase of 10% in prices. Very good. Rise in wages is 100, is 20%. That means if the real wage of base year is 100, 100 rupees, then the real wages of current year becomes 120. That means the real wages has increased basically by 20%. So I hope this is also easy to understand and follow. So we are now doing the recap. Important questions. We have discussed about circular test. It is an extension of time reversal test. Time reversal and factor reversal test only satisfied by only one index, that is Fisher's ideal index. Ratio of the price of single product, single commodity in a given period vis-a-vis its price in the preceding year can be termed as price relative. Fisher's ideal formula satisfies, no doubt it satisfies time reversal test and factor reversal test, but it does not satisfy circular test. Plus, important points like Fisher's ideal index is the geometric mean of last period's index and past year's index. Past year's index is based on current year quantity. Last period's index is based on base year quantity. Also, please remember that purchasing power of money is the reciprocal of the price index number. So this is how price index number is having an interlocking relationship with purchasing power parity. Now we will look at the MCQs from the chapter end questions. First one, index number for base year is always considered as what? So we know index number of the base year is always considered as 100. So therefore we can say that option number A is correct. Okay, next question comes up. Which index number is called ideal index number? Let us see. Laspires, Purchase, Fisher, or none? Correct answer is what? Fisher's index is called the ideal index. So answer C, option C is the correct answer. The third question comes up. Index number is also called what? So there are important questions we are taking up, both from the technical principles and also from numericals. Index number क्या होता है? Is it an economic parameter? Is it a constant? Is it a parameter? Well, index number definitely is an example of an economic barometer, whether we are calculating price index या फिर whether it's a quantity index. So हम लोग 3A में जाएंगे. Question number 4, in Las Vegas price index number, weight is considered as what? Quantity of base year, quantity of current year, sorry, price of current year, price of base year, none of the above. So ekdam shant, with a calm mindset, we know, because sometimes, price index, quantity index, there are so many variables now. Price index, quantity index, value index. You have last period's formula, you have past year's formula. You also have Fisher's ideal formula, Marshall-Edgeworth's formula. So sometimes in the heat of the exam, you may get confused. But please remember, and more and more practice under exam conditions will make you more focused and accuracy level rises dramatically. So in this case, last period's price index, last period's price index, we know the weight has to be quantity of the base year. So we will block 4A. Okay. Next question, Fisher's price index number is what? AM of last period's and past year's index number, GM, difference, या फिर none of the above. Question number 5, please note option is number B. It is the geometric mean. Question number 6, index number is used for what? Forecasting fixed price, constant, or none? We have already analyzed and understood that index number used principally for expressing relationship between price levels, quantity levels, value, and therefore it's an important tool for forecasting. 6A is the right option. Number 7, numericals. Past year's index is 110. Sorry, last period's index 110. Past year's index 108. So Fisher's index क्या होगा? We know that Fisher's index is the geometric mean of last period's index and price index. So थोड़ा सा अगर calculate करें 110 into 108, जो product आएगा उसका positive square root निकालने से we will get 109, which is the Fisher's ideal index. Option B is the right answer. Number 8, which of the following satisfies time reversal test? We have discussed this multiple times. The correct answer is Fisher's index. So option B is the right answer. आगे बढ़ेंगे. Number 9, question number 9. Purchase price and index number is also called what? Purchase price index number is using the current year weights. So 9 answer is B. Question number 10. While computing a weighted index, the current period quantities are used in what? Weighted index जब हम लोग calculate कर रहे हैं, the current period quantity, current period का जो quantity, ये कहाँ पे जाएगा? Current period quantity is always used in case of the past year's method. So 10th question, option C is right answer. 11th question, a series of numerical figures which show the relative position. By relative position, matlab we will take it as index number because it shows the position, either purchasing power or price level or quantity level or value. Index number for the base year, as we have seen, always taken as 100. So 12, option D is correct. Dash plays a very important part in the construction of index numbers. Weights, we have seen already that base year or weights बहुत ही एक important एक factor है for calculation of index numbers. Next question, index numbers show dash changes rather than absolute amounts of change. It always shows both relative and percentage. So index numbers में हम लोग देख सकते हैं कि relative movement हम लोग देख पाएंगे और percentage के हिसाब से भी हम लोग को पता लग जाएगा. So it is both. Number 19, cost of living at two different cities can be compared with the help of what? Value index, consumer price index, volume index या फिर unweighted index. Cost of living, most appropriate answer would be the consumer price index, CPI. So option B is right answer. Number 20, Fisher's ideal index is the geometric mean of what? Undoubtedly, last period's index and past year's index. So option B is the right answer for question number 20. Now we see MTP, mock test paper 2023-24. Fisher's index number is called index number because it satisfies what? Because it satisfies option C, that is both factor reversal and time reversal. Question number 2. Which index measures the change from month to month in the cost of a representative basket of goods typically bought by a typical house, bought by a typical household? So ये जो है typical household, ये हम लोग बात करेंगे retail price index. It is absolutely question option A, 2A. Question number 3. If Fisher's index is 150, past year's index 144, last period's index क्या है? So we know Fisher's index is a geometric mean. Therefore, last period's index will be equal to 150 into 150 by 144. अगर calculate करेंगे, I think 156 के करीब आएगा, 156.25. Option B is the right answer. Question number 4, typical exam type question. From the following data, construct the index number by last period's method. It is given sigma P1Q1, sigma P0Q1, sigma P0Q0, sigma P1Q0. So we know last period's method means the base year is taken as the weight. So we will construct the index number like sigma P1Q0, sigma divided by sigma P0Q0 into 100. Sigma P1Q0 value is 106, sigma P0Q0 value is 83. So अगर कैलकुलेट करेंगे, देख लेते हैं कौन सा आंसर सही आएगा. Calculation is 106 divided by 83 into 100. So मेरा आंसर आ रहा है 127.71. So option D, इसको ताला लगाया जाएगा. ऑप्शन डी पे लॉक करेंगे. It's 127.71. Latest question, MTP August 2025, consumer price index goes up from 100 to 200 and the salary of a worker is also raised from 300 to 500. Real wage in current year क्या है? Exactly same question we have done. So real wage in current year कैसे निकालेंगे? So ये जो real wage की अगर बात करें in the current year, the real wage in the current year will be consumer price index. That means it is basically, we will say that real wage is equal to the monetary wage divided by the price index of the current year. Monetary wages in the current year कितना है? 500 रुपए. Price index number current year का क्या है? 200. So the real wage in the current year will be 500 by 200 into 100, that is 250. Okay. Option B को हम लोग लॉक करेंगे. Question number 2. Last period's index number is a weighted aggregate method by taking dash as weights. Last period's index number weight यहाँ पे quantity consumed in the base year. So 2A. Index numbers are not useful or not helpful in what? I hope you are trying each of these questions along with me. So index numbers, option D, identifying error. This is odd man out. So finally, the recap index number का हम लोग we have seen in detail the concept of index numbers. Issued involved like selection of data, base period, weight selection, average कैसे निकालेंगे, choice of variable. फिर we have discussed about construction. We have covered discussion of quantity index number, then value index, फिर test of adequacy we have covered non-stop. Unit test हम लोग discuss किए थे, TRT time reversal test, FRT यानी factor reversal test और circular test. And then we have done so many MCQs. That brings us to the end of index number. We now go to the last 5 minutes as promised. Last day I had said that one or two students had raised a query on chapter 17, correlation regression, set B. So since we have got little time left, I will take up set B, question number 12 first. Question is, while computing the rank correlation coefficient between profit and investment for the last 6 years of a company, difference in rank for a year was taken as 3 instead of 4. What is the rectified rank correlation coefficient? Now we have already seen that rank correlation coefficient formula is given 1 minus sigma 6 into 1 minus 6 sigma di square by n cube minus n. di first हम लोग को निकालना है कि sigma di square क्या है. So it is given that the rank correlation coefficient is 0.4. So n is given 6. N is given 6. So if I put the formula, put the values of n equal to 6 and R equal to 0.4, then sigma di square will come to 21. Sigma di square will come to 21. Now the question is, उसमें एक rank जो 4 रहना चाहिए था वो 3 लिया गया. So एक adjustment factor यहाँ पे करना है. That means one of the rank di was taken as 3, but it should have been 4. We have seen sigma di square is 21. So जो rank की हम लोग बात कर रहे हैं 3, so 3 square is 9. 9 has been considered, but ideally we have to consider 4 square, yani 16. So revised di square will be how much? Revised di square will be the current di square, which is 21 minus 9 plus 16. In other words, 21 minus 3 square plus 4 square. क्योंकि 3 गलती से लिया गया था, 3 गलत था, that means 3 square 9 was included, but now it will be eliminated and we have to consider 4 square 16. So therefore the revised di square adjusted sigma di square becomes 21 minus 3 square plus 4 square यानी 28. 28 अगर आपका sigma di square adjusted sigma di square का value है, तब your revised rank correlation coefficient will now become 1 minus 6 into revised sigma di square divided by n cube minus n. N is 6, it remains 6. So if you carry it out calculation, you will find that the RCC, rank correlation coefficient, comes to 0.2. Option number B is the right answer. So I hope students who had raised this query last day, I'm sure they are part of the session and they have understood the entire logic. All other students who are watching and who shall be watching the video, the recorded version of this particular session, I hope you will be clear with this additional solution given. This is question number 12. Moving now to question number 13. Question is, for 10 pairs of observation, number of concurrent deviation was found to be 4. What is the value of the coefficient of concurrent deviation? Coefficient of concurrent deviation, RC, you can see is given. It is plus minus square root of plus minus 2c minus m by n. यहाँ पे जो ट्विस्ट है कहानी का, जो ट्विस्ट है वो ये है कि नंबर ऑफ पेयर्स ऑफ ऑब्जर्वेशन इज गिवन 10, बट it is clearly mentioned in the CCD formula that if the number of pairs of observations is n, N for Nagpur, N. Then number of deviation will be N minus 1. So here we see number of pairs of observation is 10. So N number of deviation will be 10 minus 1, that is 9. यहीं पे maximum students might have made a mistake. So M is 9 and C, that is concurrent deviation, कितना हो रहा है? We have been given concurrent deviation is 4. So therefore अगर formula हम लोग यहाँ पे apply करेंगे, value put करेंगे, it comes to square root of 2 into 4. C is 4. 2 into 4 minus M. M is 9 divided by 9. So it comes to square root of 1 by 9. बाहर minus sign आ जाएगा. And therefore the answer is minus 1 by 3. Coefficient of concurrent deviation comes to minus 1 by 3. And hence we can say that option number D, 13D is the right answer. Here ho gaya 13th question, and the last question I'll take up is question number 16, set B, correlation regression, chapter number 17. Following are the two normal equations obtained for deriving the regression line of y and x. It is given 5a plus 10b is 40, 10a plus 25b is 95. We have to find out the form of the regression line of y on x. Solution is like this. From the two simultaneous linear equations, if you solve these equations, we have 5a plus 10b is 40 and 10a plus 25b is 95. So by elimination and solve normal solution for simultaneous linear equation, we will get a equal to 2 and b equal to 3. If you put a equal to 2 in equation number 1 and b equal to 3 in equation number 1, you will see that we will get 40, which is the right hand side figure. So if a equal to 2 and b equal to 3, we know the regression equation is of the form y equal to a plus bx, where b is a measure of the slope. So here b comes to 3 and a comes to 2. Hence, the required equation is y equal to 2 plus 3x. Right? So this is the solution to this question. Accordingly, option C is the correct answer. So with this, dear participants, we will conclude the session, thanking all of you, and I'm stopping the sharing here. So we have delved into the all corners of chapter number 18 on index numbers, covering a price relative, quantity relative, use of index numbers, the positive and negative side, the pros and cons of index numbers, and then we proceeded to have detailed discussion, technical discussion on the composite and aggregated index numbers, covering last pair's index, past year's index, Edgeworth-Marshall's index, and Fisher's ideal index. We covered value index discussion, and then we moved on to discuss about the chain, that is when we have the linking and the chain index numbers. Thereafter, we covered examples, number of examples, and technical discussion on the splicing of the index numbers and shifting of the base, of course. Finally, we covered the technicalities of the unit test, time reversal test, factor reversal test, observing that only Fisher's index number satisfies the time reversal and factor reversal test. Concluding, we moved on to the numerical examples, both from the technical principles as well as the numericals, covering number of applications from last period's index, past year's index, and Fisher's index. And finally, the pending solutions to some of the questions from set B of chapter 17 we have covered. So please keep watching the videos and keep practicing questions from the study material of ICAI, MTP, mock test papers, revisional test papers, question bank. Kindly download all the necessary documents from ICAI Board of Studies website. Keep practicing under exam conditions. Increase your accuracy, confidence level, and of course speed. You require speed, accuracy, and calm, composed mind a confident approach. So wishing you all the best, and thanking once again to Board of Studies ICAI and to all our officials who are part of this program, who are able to make this program a reality. I hand it back to the technical support team. From my side, I'm signing off and handing it back to the technical support team for concluding the session. Thank you. Thank you. Okay.